Hey guys, it's Gene from Blackhawk Outfitters. Just want to let everybody know we're having our end of season clearance event. Every Old Town boat we've got hundreds of them are on sale. You get the best prices of the season on new, pre-paddled, and demo boats. Check out blackhawkoutfitters.com. Give us a call at the shop. You're going to get the best price on an Old Town that you'll ever get all year long. Check us out.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
October Stripers, by boat or by beach. The October edition, New Jersey, Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman Magazine, with a beautiful cover shot this month from outdoor photographer John Fallon. It just about says it all. All that you need to know about the upcoming action here at the Jersey Shore and hopefully down along the Delaware coast as well. I'm Jim Hutchinson. It's September 29th. The first weekend of October is ahead of us. Of course, the New Jersey fluke season is over. And boats like these here in Brielle on the Manasquan River. The Jamaica's out, Paramount's out, Jamaica 2 here. About time to change the signs, right? All those boats up and down the Jersey Shore awaiting anxiously the start of black sea bass on October 7th, now that our summer flounder season has closed here in New Jersey for 2022. Now, I live just about 5 minutes up the road a little bit, but it was pointed out to me by a thoughtfully observant viewer last week that clearly mistakes cannot happen here in this weekly video forecast. Also suggested that I move back to South Jersey. I guess I'm on the other side. Ocean County, is that South Jersey? I'm not sure. So anyway, I drove across the river from my home in northern Ocean County to recognize this Monmouth County port and what's in store for the next week before black sea bass opens up. And I think the boats here are pretty much a good example of what a lot of the boats in New Jersey are doing now in these between days. Aboard the Jamaica 2, the crew is looking to head offshore for porgy in between the weather fits and up until black sea bass opens up next week. Aboard the Paramount, it's night blue fishing on Saturday ahead, weather permitting. They've had them up to 8 pounds on some of those night trips on bait and jigs. Also porgy fishing. It's been on fire according to the crew over there. They'll be pounding those porgies until sea bass reopens on October 7th. Meanwhile, as I mentioned before, the Jamaica will be offshore tuna fishing this week. They have a bunch of openings for their offshore trips coming up in October, which of course at this time of year is always quite weather dependent. Across the river in Point, the Gambler 2 is putting together those fall trips to the tuna grounds. Quite a few boats, or head boats especially at the Jersey Shore, trying to do the same thing, sneaking off to those offshore grounds when the weather allows. Consider the Miss Barnegat Light, for example, to the south, the Golden Eagle in Belmar to our north. Check out the October edition of the Fisherman Magazine. When it arrives, you subscribers will get it in your mailbox later on this week. Of course, it's going to be out in newsstands, tackle shops this week, but if you look at the report section of that October edition, you will find out all the boats, all of the advertising boats, what they're running for, what they're gearing up for October. Oh, and by the way, I would hope you're a subscriber to the Fisherman Magazine, but make sure that you subscribe to these weekly YouTube alerts, because then when you sign in and get your account and everything, you can comment just like everybody else comments. I love the comments, positive and negative, but make sure you subscribe, hit that bell, do everything so you get these weekly updates when they come out every Thursday afternoon. Now, I know some folks like the crew of the Big Mohawk out of Belmar. They're taking these tweener days as an opportunity to pull the boat, do some servicing, get everything geared up for when everything really kicks off in October. Out of Highlands, we can reasonably expect striped bass action up on those waters. Highlands, Atlantic Highlands, all over Raritan Bay. That will get started before the striper action throughout most of the state. But boats like the Little Mohawk or the Little Hawk, they're looking forward to October striped bass and October sea bass as well. While the Mijo 2, their Mijo will open up the porgies right now now that sea bass is in that hold period. I want you to keep in mind too that we took this cut in 2022 on black sea bass, so you want to pay close attention to the October dates for black sea bass. I will remind you as we finish up this month as those regulations change, because there is a slight change and a slight off period when we get to the end of October. A big story in last week's video forecast, of course, was the passing glance from Hurricane Fiona, which sure made a mess of things on the offshore grounds and put a big heave into our inshore waters last weekend, the final weekend of summer flounder at the Jersey Shore. This week, I got to send prayers out, and we all should, to those folks in Florida along the Gulf Coast, just getting hammered this week. I feel terrible. What did it came ashore Wednesday is what, Category 4, borderline Category 5 hurricane. This is one ungodly storm that hit down there. It brings to mind, for me, Hurricane Michael, which hit down there in the Gulf Coast in 2018. I have a special place in my heart for Mexico Beach there on the Florida Panhandle, just absolutely wiped out. So we're going to be watching some scenes unfold on video, on TV in the next couple of days. But keep in mind, we're always going through this. When we went through this with Sandy here in Jersey, and I'm sure we're going to go through it again, folks gather, they go to those charitable hotlines. Consider that in the days ahead if we can figure out a way to help those folks along the Gulf Coast as this storm passes through. Late last week, it was looking like this Hurricane Ian was going to be a fast mover, right? I was looking at some things last week where it looked like we were going to have some messy conditions even Friday into Saturday. I'm not sure the way it stands now, but this storm, this nasty Ian, really slowed down once it hit the Gulf. So we're going to have to take a look at the weekend ahead. You will want to keep an eye out on things, whether we're going to get those early winds and rains early into the weekend or if it happens at the end. But for sure, looking at the midweek NOAA weather forecast, things are not looking warm and fuzzy. Certainly not on the inshore grounds this weekend ahead, which is not real nice with all that nor'east, unless you're a surf caster, hoping that northeast wind is really going to mix and model things up in the surf and start driving those baits out of the inlets and maybe bring a few stripers in. But I know the surf casters are always looking for that post-storm fishing when we get something like that. That, of course, will impact the offshore windows as well. Same NOAA weather forecast looking at the Hudson to Baltimore does not look hospitable in the weekend ahead. So if you had an offshore trip planned, hopefully you had some contingency trips in the mix as well. Hopefully things clear up rather quickly at the end of this weekend, early next week, so we can get back into things next week. But some of those backwater areas, the salty rivers, the back bays, could offer you the best escape from any wind and that high storm surge that we're going to obviously get in the weekend ahead. Anchor up for blowfish, for example. Central Jersey, Barnegat Bay, the blowfishing has been fantastic, even down into the Great Bay area. I did hear from Captain Dave DeGennaro from the High Flyer this week, who runs out of Barnegat. He says the weak fishing is phenomenal in Barnegat Bay at this point. So be on the lookout for some of those beautiful weak fish this week, whether you're throwing plastics or maybe anchoring up with some cheddar crab, or if you know the art form of grass shrimp, and that's certainly one way to go as well. Scott Helios got himself a sheep's head this week, working over a land-based tog spot out back. And no, it does not look like that's Atlantic County. It doesn't look like it's Cape May County as well. So it's good to see we've got those sheep's heads still in the mix, warmer water temperatures in the back. We've still got these tropical storm systems, so hopefully a few more sheep's head in the mix as well. But that was a nice surprise. This is not Atlantic or Cape May County either, surprisingly. The folks at Grumpy's this week reported a surprise catch for Todd Updike. He was out on the final day of fluke season, Tuesday, with a bucktail and gulp, and instead of a fluke, stumbled into this beautiful redfish. I talked briefly about those channel bass at length last week in our video fishing forecast for folks who might be encountering these red drum, redfish, channel bass. Philip and Amy Walsh were fluke fishing about 20 miles off of Cape May a couple of weeks back. They hooked up with this beautiful red drum. After a quick photo, they released this fish. Remember, you can keep a red drum, but it's got to be a slot, 18 to 27 inches, 18 to less than 27 inches. So if you encounter one of those redfish, if you're getting a puppy or you're getting one of those overs, you got to let it go. But be on the lookout, because it's a surprising, these things always show up in surprising numbers and surprising places, not far from here in Point Pleasant Canals, right over there. I remember Al Ristori catching a redfish in the Manasquan, the Point Pleasant Canal just a couple of years ago as well. So just keep in mind, that was taken on a gulp. All those fluke baits that you used, those various sharks, those swimming mullets, the grubs, the curly tails, even though your fluking is done at the Jersey Shore for 2022, you never know what kind of critter is going to pile on one of those baits. And of course, as these signs change and we're back out on the black sea bass grounds, you want to keep some of those same baits for the teasers as well.
We are the Fish Bites Nation, and this is your invitation. So grab some fish bites and get busy casting, because you can't join the nation without doing the catching.
As I said, let's hope things clean up fast after another messy offshore weekend ahead. But I do know that in between these fits of weather rage, we are getting a few reports, although the fish are scattered. We're getting into that time of year where some bluefin are going to come in close, let's hope. I did hear from Cameron Walsh. He took some time in between his triple header charters a couple of weeks back, found some topwater bluefin action near the glory hole, and catching and releasing fish up to 58 inches inshore. It's a great time of year. We're getting into those inshore blitzes, those screaming drags, the birds wheeling and diving, and those false albacore popping up and down, as Rob Crossley said he found this past weekend just outside of Barnegat Inlet over the weekend. I know a lot of folks too are chasing those false albacore reports up and down the beaches, not so much in South Jersey, but Island Beach. I've seen some signs along the Bayhead stretch outside of those inlets, and of course Sandy Hook is one of the greatest places to be this time of year if you want to chase some of those false albacore screaming in there. If you're hitting the beaches, kingfish on fish boat bites will load the pan, I'll tell you that. Manny Botera got on this chunky 15-incher on bloodworm and fish bites in Stone Harbor just a couple of weeks back. He's been giving it some heck, and I know tournaments like the Long Beach Island Surf Fishing Classic, which will start next weekend, they've got kingfish on the board, 3 segments for cash prizes, because especially at the beginning of the season before the striped bass really turn on, that's a good money maker in the surf there in LBI in terms of the tournaments. But again, if you're out on the beaches, keep those exo jigs, those slim metals handy in case you see some of those split tails making their way in close along the beach. Hoping to find a couple of bonita this fall, but again, false albacore, screaming drags, love this time of year. Bluefish as well. Had a little cocktail party myself earlier this week, walking the beaches, offshore wind, throwing a popper. All I was getting were those 2 and 3 pound cocktail blues. I did hear from John at Betty and Nick's in Seaside Park on Wednesday. He posted this on his Facebook page. I would love to see a real banner fall season with some bluefish, especially some hefty ones. And I would also love to see the New Jersey Delaware Bay edition well represented at the top of the Fisherman Magazine's Dream Boat Leaderboard. Remember, those gators, they'll become the fish of the month as far as starting on Saturday, October 1st. The fish of the month, subscribers, don't forget about this, our tournament, the Dreamboat Fishing Challenge, and our Coastal Kayak Clash.
No new entries this week, so the standings remain the same. Bluefish is the fish of the month for October, and there are some gators around, so go out there and get on the board. And here are the current top 4 leaders. First place, Rob Carazano. Second place, Dean Paella. Third, Sam Dibner. And fourth, Garrett Weir. The Dreamboat Fishing Challenge is the Fisherman subscriber-only multi-species fishing competition with a chance to win a new Steigercraft 23 Miami powered by Yamaha, along with many other great prizes. Visit thefisherman.com to subscribe and get all the details so you can be part of the action. As for the Coastal Kayak Clash, no new entries this week, so now is your chance to make up some ground and compete for that Hobie kayak.
You know, if you never got your 2022 Pennsylvania fishing license, and you don't feel like paying the full freight right now to do so for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, I got a great one for you here. The Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission, they have a special 75% off sale on licenses. That will start this Saturday, October 1st. So if you plan on doing a little bit of Pennsylvania fishing in the fall and you haven't gotten your license, wait until Saturday. You can save a bundle. Maybe head up to the Poconos, enjoy with the family some of that fall foliage and autumn action. Though I would not expect we're going to see George out on the grounds around Beltsville anytime soon, not at least in the next couple of days, as the vid continues to make the rounds. What's up, George?
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, in the quarantine room myself this week, looks like I couldn't escape COVID even up here in the Poconos, but we're almost through that, and hopefully we'll be out of the woods in a couple of days, so to speak. But the fishing is still good. You know, I had a bunch of folks check in over the past week, and things are really starting to turn well with the weather. All this water we're getting, rain, getting those water levels where they belong, and that temperature coming down. You know, talking about the Delaware River, we'll start off there. We had young Aiden Downs out with his pop Brian on the Delaware, ended up getting his PB smallmouth. They were throwing a sexy shad jerkbait, and we've been talking about those jerkbaits all season. They just continued to produce. Also, striper up on Wallen Pond Pack. You know, the pack continues to produce. A good friend Jay Batchett out there getting into some, and they just keep working week after week. So the Paul Pack's a great place you want to be if you're into some stripers. Now, we haven't talked a whole lot about Beltsville this year, but guys are out getting some. My good friend Charlie Roberts out doing some night fishing. Ended up getting this little baby here. And I'll tell you what, he was actually out catching this on ultralight and 6-pound test line. He was actually out for white perch and ended up getting himself a really nice striper. So things produce on Beltsville as well now. So guys, I hope you get out and try some of this. The season's getting just right for fishing, and hopefully I'll be over this another week or so and be out there myself to join you. From Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
I'm Captain Greg DeBrule of the party boat Blackhawk out of Niantic, Connecticut. You've seen us at the sport shows, you've seen us on TV, magazines, newspapers. Now you can come fish with us, okay? We're fast, we're clean, and we're comfortable. And besides that, we catch them, ask around. Come visit us at blackhawksportfishing.com. We'll save a seat for you.
The ASAC tournament season is underway at the Jersey Shore. The 67th annual Pennsauken Surf Fishing Club Tournament, an ASAC sanctioned event. That's the Association of Surf Angling Clubs, of course. That will be held this Saturday, October 1st. It's open to teams and individuals on the beach in North Wildwood. If you want to get into some competitive fishing, either by yourself, with one of your family members or a friend, or if you want to put a team together, I believe it's a 6-person team, you can contact Dan, 856-261-4521, or get all the details at asaconline.org. Find out more about that incredible organization as well. Again, summer flounder fluke, it's all over in New Jersey for the 2022 season, although they're still catching and keeping the flatties down there in Delaware. You can trailer, or if you want to hop on a headboat or charter boat, give the folks from Lewis Harbor Marina a call. If you don't have enough fluke fillets in the freezer, get down there. I did see where the surface tension produced an 8.12 pounder this week on the ocean structure. And of course, yes, you Delawareans, you continue to enjoy the black sea bass season as well. You wonder why I go into my fisheries management rants on a regular basis here on our weekly video. Craziness. Days are getting shorter, nights obviously getting cooler, breaking into some of the chamois and long sleeve shirts at this time. It feels good, and of course, that's all a good sign. Nights getting a little bit cooler. It's going to chase more of this bait out rivers and inlets like the Manasquan here, and soon enough, we're going to get piled up with some good fishing out front. But the best bet in the week ahead, or the weekend ahead, of course, chasing speedsters out front in between the swells. Out back, you've got some good chum pot fishing opportunities. Get with the kids. Always catching a bunch of spots. I was talking to somebody the other day. I said every spot we caught went into the live well for the rest of the tuna season and the striper season as well. But good blow fishing in central Jersey, down into some areas of Great Bay as well. And of course, if you're in South Jersey, Jersey, anchor up near that structure with those crab jigs, right? You still have the tog, the 1 fish bag limit, but still some opportunities with sheep's head in South Jersey, Atlanta, Cape May County, of course, down into Delaware as well. Again, New Jersey sea bass will reopen October 7th. All these signs, everybody's signage is going to change. For more details on who's sailing, where, when, and how, pick up that October edition of the Fisherman Magazine and get all the information you need in our report section. Of course, gear up for the striper season ahead. Fall weather means it's time to block out those winter trips as well. If you're heading away to the Florida Keys, you're heading out to Costa Rica or someplace, now's the time to start thinking about your travel plans. I will send you out this week with a report from my friend Ben Gilmore on the Costa Rica action out of Marina Pez Vela in Capos down in Costa Rica. Catch him up, my friends. Enjoy the report, and I'll see you again next week right here at thefisherman.com.
Hey there guys, it's Ben Gilmore here from the Marina Pez Vela in Costa Rica with this week's fishing report. Right now we got a really nice mahi-mahi bite going on. The great thing about mahi-mahi is that they come really close to shore. Often we'll catch them only about 8 miles out, and right now we've got tons of 15 to 20 pound fish. What's going to happen over the next few weeks? We got a lot of rain this time of year, and the numbers of mahi-mahi are just going to increase as the debris washes out of our rivers, causes debris lines offshore, and we got the best mahi-mahi fishing of the year kind of around the end of October and early November. So looking forward to that one. We got a good billfish bite going on. We got sailfish, blue marlin, and then inshore we got roosterfish, snappers, jacks, and mackerel. Hope to see you guys down here in Costa Rica. Back over to you.